Well, hi there, and welcome to this special program. This is Parliamentary Agenda, and this evening I have got with me three ministers of the government. We will be dealing with an issue, a fresh issue. This would be just arising out of parliamentary sitting, and this is just a few days ago, a no confidence motion was filed by the leader of the opposition. And the no confidence motion is against two sitting ministers, which are Minister of Home Affairs, Robeson Benn, and a Minister of Health, Dr. Frank Anthony. I've got with me Minister of Labour, who's at my extreme right, the only other gentleman in the studio this evening, in Mr. Joe Hamilton, Minister of Labour. Next to him is two really elegantly dressed ministers, and they've been working all day, so I'm wondering if they came directly from the office. We've got Minister of Tourism, Industry and Commerce, Oneidge Walrond, and closest to me is a minister within the Ministry of Housing and Water, Susan Rodrigues. It's my pleasure to have you on this evening.
Thank you for having us here.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
We are about to talk about a very interesting topic. And Guyana will well know that whenever you hear the mention of no confidence, it's one to cause some worry. The last time we had this file, it changed the political landscape in the country. This one may be different. So we're here this evening discussing whether it is different, whether it has any resemblance of the last one, and its impact on the nation and its time, the timeliness of this no confidence motion. As I started by saying, it was filed by the leader of the opposition. I believe you want to start the conversation with Minister of Labour, Joe Hamilton. Your take on the issue?
Well, the thing is, my view is this. So, a couple of weeks ago, we brought a no confidence motion against one David Patterson. That was successful. And the thing we were saying they should do, they end up doing it, name another person to be the chairman of the Public Accounts Committee. And so I am of the view that what you have here is, okay, they knock us, let us knock them back. So, you know, it's that mentality, I believe. Because where this will go, it will go no place. But as comedic as it is, it's serious in a sense that here we have an opposition group. They're paid substantial salaries by the state. The opposition leader is paid well and all the trappings that go with it. But when you look at his deliverables, where is the value for the money he's being paid, you know? And that is a question people should ask, not some silly no confidence motion. What has this guy done? What is he doing? What policy is brought to bear? When they criticize the government, what else after that? You know, I have this concept, and even the officers, senior officers, I say to them, if you tell me don't use something that is blue, the conversations can't finish there. You have to tell me why I shouldn't use it, and then you have to give me a substitute. Because my grandmother taught me if you take away bread, you have to at least put biscuit on the table or cassava bread, something. So when they criticize the opposition leader and all the clique there, what do they bring on the table? You know, we serve in opposition, and say what you want. We saw an opposition leader by the name of Barra Jagdeo, who is now vice president, and the nation saw an opposition in motion. And, you know, I say to people, I've been around a long while and I work with a lot of politicians, and I publicly made a point that like they say, Vivian Richards is a master blaster in cricket. Barra Jagdeo is a master blaster in politics. And I say that because I worked on all sides. I know the characters and the people who have participated. And you saw an opposition in motion. You saw an opposition that kept the government off balance until the no confidence motion that you just spoke about, that brought on in and terminated them from government. And so the point is, you saw strategically. It is not Iram Skirum, as they say, what people say. That is what this is. We're just throwing two motions. And if you read the two motions, and Oneidge is a lawyer, she is more au fait with these things. It's two lazy man resolution because they're the same thing. There's no thought. All that happened, Kwame sent it to me and I looked at the minister. And all they did is take out Minister of Health, Minister of Health, and drop in Ministry of, and two different persons countersigned with Harmon. That is what they did. And to take the cake of all of this comedy, Karen Cummins is the seconded the motion against Frank Anthony. I mean, it's like, what is happening here? Is university on one side and you have kindergarten on the other side. And kindergarten is challenging university. But that is what we are having here, And so it's laughable, it's a comedy, but it's serious because it impacts, it affects the nation. I suspect whenever the day comes when we have this motion, they will come there to scream and to holler and to thump. And that will be their 15 minutes everybody will get in the sun. And the streaming and the Facebook, and that is what it will be. Because at the end of the day, those motions will be thrown in the garbage. That is the place it must go. Because when you look objectively at what both ministers are doing, the statistics is there to bear out their successes. So this is foolishness. And so that is what I would say. They're just trying to do something, try a thing, as they say on the road. That is what these motions are.
Okay. Let's go to the legal mind in the House. Minister Walrond, your take on what we're now speaking of.
Yes. I am, like my colleague Joe has said, it would have been amusing if it weren't so serious, that someone like the opposition leader, Joe Harmon, would use the word no confidence motion when the ultimate vote of no confidence was when he was booted out of power. And that, he should be ashamed to put forward a motion such as this. And the motion itself, him being a lawyer, is disgraceful. There's no basis. It's a legal application, and when you make applications, legal application, you have to show the basis, the groundwork. What are the grounds? There is nothing. Like Joe said, it is just two lines, and it is what it decries. It speaks to a disregard for our systems, a disregard for your people, and a disregard for your supporters, that this is the work that you have done to challenge a government as an opposition leader, which is no work at all. As a lawyer, he has presented a one-page, two-line document to bring a legal challenge and has presented no grounds. When you look at it, you realize that it is just theatrics. And there's no strategy involved. The strategy, there is just nothing. And what he has done is given us an opportunity to say that we have our colleagues, Minister Benn and Frank Anthony, Dr. Anthony, have the full confidence of the government, and has given us an opportunity to say that. That these, and for their records to show, crime has been done, serious crime has been done by 23%, as Minister Benn has presented. Dr. Anthony relates when we got appointed that we were doing 21 tests a day. Now read up to 2,000 tests a day. Their report, their record is there to show that these are the most efficient at their job, effective at their job. And what Mr. Harmon is doing by speaking against the policies that government and Minister Benn have propagated for national security is undermine that very security by challenging it at every moment. He turns up and incites the people that when the Henry boys killings, was very irresponsible there, and doing when government we're coming up with innovative ways to tackle crime very transparently. He makes it try to have the citizens question what we're doing and to doubt, and it's undermining the very security that the citizens are relying on, and it is very irresponsible. There are some issues that you ought to give full support to, and security of all the citizens is one of them that you want to support and you want to help to bolster, and he does everything to undermine it. This is also the man who is now saying that he has no confidence in this government, who has taken advantage of an effective and efficient vaccination rollout program for the COVID-19, secretly took his Sputnik very first in line, and then goes out and shouts to his supporters that don't take it because it's bad. When it has been proven, and the statistics are there, that the sure way to avoid death if you contract COVID-19 is by taking the vaccine. There's no other way. And Mr. Harmon is saying to his supporters, well, I am the only one who deserves to have this vaccine, deserves to avoid death. But you go out and you could be exposed and you take that risk. Could you imagine? And I would like for his supporters to really think critically about what he did there. Take the vaccine and then go out and say don't take it when it's the only way to not die when you get the thing. So he should be enjoying a vote of no confidence from his supporters. It's really boggles the mind as to what exactly he's thinking. There is just no thought, no strategy, nothing put in place. And more importantly, he tries to, I don't know if this step is to say to my supporters, I am doing something, but what it has done is it's exposed his ineptitude and incompetence as an opposition leader. And it's quite laughable, like I said, if it wasn't this serious. But we want to take this opportunity. We turn up here to say, well, we take this opportunity to say that our colleagues, Minister Benn and Dr. Anthony, enjoy our full support, and we turn up here to say that we have absolute confidence in them, and at the same time to expose this nonsense for what it is, just ineptitude and thoughtlessness.
Thank you so much, Mr. Walrond. Just to remind you, if you're following us on the Voice of Ghana or on NCN, this is Parliamentary Agenda, and we're speaking with three sitting ministers on the no confidence motion filed by Leader of the Opposition on two sitting ministers, in the Minister of Home Affairs in Robeson Benn and Minister of Health, Dr. Frank Anthony. So we've heard from the experienced Joe Hamilton, the legal mind, Lady Walrond, and now we speak to one of the more energetic and younger ministers, full of energy in the government, minister within the Ministry of Housing and Water, Susan Rodrigues. I'm sure you've got your spin on this as well.
Thank you for that introduction, because nothing gets me worked up like APNU AFC. They're the reason, and I thank them very publicly. They're the reason that I got involved in politics in the first place. And so I am always looking forward to the opportunity, and I always welcome any opportunity to give my take on my opinion of them as a bunch, as a former government, and now as the opposition. Now, before I go on and say anything else, let me say categorically that this motion will fail, or these motions will fail. We already know, and it has been established, it's been demonstrated, that the opposition has a problem with mathematics. And they do not have the numbers in the Parliament, in the National Assembly, in which to pass these motions. And so the motion is doomed already. Apart from that, there is a mechanism by which you remove a minister of government or a member of parliament. This is not the way in which you do that. There is the recall legislation that you use, and a member of parliament can only be removed if he is deceased or incapacitated or mentally unstable, or the leader of the list of the party of which he represents loses confidence in him or her. And in this case, that is the president, Dr. Mohamed Irfan Ali, and we know for a fact that the president, all of the cabinet members, and all of the members of parliament on our side of the house have full confidence in Ministers Benn and Frank Anthony. And so the motion is a non-starter. Very much like Harmon. He is also a non-starter. So if we can examine the person or the character that is Joseph Harmon, before we even look at the motion, Harmon is the most visionless, incompetent, irresponsible, corrupt election rigger there ever was. And this is a man who himself had a no-confidence motion moved against him, is now portraying himself as some kind of shepherd for his flock, and coming forward and bringing a no-confidence motion against two ministers who had to take over two sectors that were in crisis when our government took office. And then if you look, you examine the motion itself, as Minister Walrond said, 2 lines, no effort put into it, no thought put into it. It is as though he woke up yesterday morning and had a wild thought. Let's go file a no-confidence motion against these 2 ministers. It lacks substance. Harmon lacks substance. The motion lacks substance. There is no reference in the motion to any statistical data or fact or points to any set of circumstances on the basis on which you are bringing these motions, which clearly shows a lack of understanding of what a no-confidence motion is supposed to do, the purpose of a no-confidence motion. And if I can take you back to when we tabled a no-confidence motion in the then coalition government back in 2018, just prior to that, there was the local government elections in which the people of Guyana delivered a song thrashing to the government of the day, the coalition government, and overwhelmingly voted for the candidates of the People's Progressive Party, Civic. And riding on that wave and taking a cue from the population, we then filed on that basis of an overwhelming demonstration by the people of Guyana of no confidence in the government. Riding on that, and on that basis, we filed a motion of no confidence. And then Harmon has the audacity to say, in a statement I saw on his Facebook page, that he is bringing this motion on behalf of the people of Guyana. Now, I don't know who indicated to him or on which cue he is bringing this motion on behalf of, because the people of Guyana certainly have not demonstrated no confidence in any kind of no confidence in these motions and in these ministers. And these ministers, of course, enjoy the overwhelming support of our president and of the members of parliament on our side of the house. And we can point to specific things that they are doing. The vaccination rollout, as referenced by Minister Walrond before, is the envy of the Caribbean and of CARICOM countries, the way it has been rolled out, the manner in which it is structured and planned and being delivered to the people of Guyana. When I look and I see the way it's being administered, drive-through vaccination, these things are unheard of. Look at the luxury and the privilege Guyanese are enjoying in a time where the entire world is in crisis and many countries are still grappling to procure vaccines. We have them here and are able to roll them out. People can come and receive their vaccine in comfort. Only yesterday I saw we have mobile units now going house to house, bringing the vaccine to you. That is the type of leadership under the Minister of Health, Dr. Frank Anthony. And then we saw on the APNO, when they had no plan in place to tackle COVID, by the same Dr. Cummins who co-signed the motion, there was no personal protective equipment. They gave us the shell that was Ocean View, that Mr. Granger quickly ran and put his name on, but it was just a shell. There was no beds in there. There were no beds in there. There were no oxygen lines, nothing in there. The hospital wasn't functional. They procured $14 billion in drugs that we had to destroy because it was expired. The persistent drug shortages across the country. That is what Frank Anthony inherited. And he is now correcting all of that and still being able to deliver quality healthcare service to the people of this country. And likewise, similarly, Minister Benn, the sector that he inherited, serious crime is down 23%. Road deaths are down 30%. The statistics show that all other types of crime is down. So these gentlemen, it's not easy, the two sectors that they have responsibility for, but they are trying their best and they are doing a very, very good job at it, and we will continue to support them. The President supports them. We as Cabinet ministers will continue to support them, and I'm sure they enjoy the support of the people of this country as well.
Okay, we've heard from each of you, and it now has broken the ice, so we've got a chance to delve a little deeper into the conversation. If we can look at the sectors, home affairs, and this relates to crime and a whole host of other issues, and health, which is the one I want to start with first. Health, only recently Minister Anthony was in Parliament and he was really calling for support as it relates to the fight against getting more and more people to be on board to take their jabs. He had called the opposition, he had called all members of the House to encourage their supporters, encourage their relatives, everyone, to have those jabs. Following that, there was also another presentation where he commended all members of the House, including the opposition, for turning the numbers over, making things happen. The question is, what has happened since then? That now the question is on Dr. Anthony's performance. Not much mentioned by the opposition as it relates to crime in that regard, but the push on COVID has been a great one. You did make mention of Guyana being the envy of the region as it relates to its rollout, in so much that there has been talk in the Caribbean about Guyana in one way or the other, some for, some against, but generally the onus is you cannot deny the efforts made by this country as it relates to COVID-19. The mobile units that you talk about, which is something that's been spoken of quite a lot. In fact, reading in the press, Bartik has got a house-to-house rollout, and my friends in Bartik are telling me about that. So these are things that are in the public domain. We know about it. The issue as it relates to crime, I know there was the conversation that still is on about efforts to enhance the police force as it relates to training. There's even talk about having an additional unit to deal with crime at another level. So there are efforts that are being made. Are the things we speak of known to all and sundry that, or is it that it's being done in a separate queue, where some are aware, and I'm talking here about the same no confidence motions. I mean, if this information is public knowledge, the question is, the confidence motion to what effect?
Well, Mark, is a gimmick. And the coalition, the APNU AFC opposition, everybody has realized that they're a bunch of clowns. And what they need right now more than anything
You call your colleagues clowns, are you?
they need attention.
Okay.
Nobody's paying attention to them. And so they have to come up with, they do the most outrageous things. They say the most outrageous things. And somehow, I don't know if they think that will garner the support that they need. It will not, because nothing that they're doing or saying is constructive. And nothing that they're doing or saying moves the developmental agenda of this country forward.
Okay.
If you were serious, if you were a serious opposition, and any democracy demands that you have a serious opposition who can hold the feet of the government to the fire. And that's what they should be doing, holding ministers and holding the government accountable, but not by doing outrageous things like this. If there is something that is lacking in the sector, you can point to that, highlight it, by all means, and we will try to make it better, to correct it. But what they're doing here adds nothing to the national debate.
Okay.
And when it comes to the health sector, the healthcare sector, this demands a national effort. And this is why Dr. Frank Anthony, the gentleman that he is, went to the floor of the National Assembly and asked for their cooperation. One of their strongholds, Region 10, is far behind the other regions in terms of vaccination. And instead of putting their supporters and the well-being of their supporters at the forefront of their fight and their struggle, they're encouraging people not to take the vaccines when they took it. And they took months before they even admitted taking the vaccine. And then once, it was exposed that they all took it and we saw evidence of them taking their jabs, then they admitted it, but then started to question the integrity of the vaccines and encouraging people not to take it, instead of joining us, putting the people first, putting the well-being and the welfare of the country first. Join with us, and let's move the country forward.
Agenda forward. There are two things. I bring one to Minister Walrond and one to my experienced minister sitting here, Minister of Labour. To Minister Walrond, the second signatory, has, I think it's a PSA out about taking the jab and the importance. Former Minister of Health, minister within the Ministry of Health back then, of encouraging people to take the jab. I leave this one with you, Dr. Cummings, and I bring to Minister Hamilton the mathematical question as it relates to the whole notion of the two motions. Let's start with you first.
You said she has a PAC?
No, a PSA, which is a public service announcement. And I think the minister back then, the former minister, took the jab and she was encouraging all and sundry.
Yes, she had a video where she endorsed the...
Right.
It was, so the question here is, I'm wondering if after the jab...
Our signatures there.
Yes. Oh my, yes, it's right. Some of these, some of the actions, like Minister Rodrigues has said, it's just, you can't explain, because there's really very little synergy amongst themselves, thought, strategy placed, and so that exactly, you will find inconsistent behavior like that, and inconsistent messaging. So she endorses the vaccine one time and then co-signs a no confidence motion against the very Minister of Health who is responsible for rolling out an enviable vaccine program. They had the privilege of sitting with the president at the CARICOM heads of government and at the meeting, and it was a 2-day meeting. And Guyana, our statistics are, it's even better than some of the first world countries in terms of the number of cases and the deaths. And the sole reason that our death rate is so low compared to all of the countries, even first world countries, we're not even mentioning the Caribbean countries, the sole reason is because of our vaccination program. That is the only reason that we are not seeing the high rates of death that most countries are seeing. And we were highlighted, the numbers are there to show that CARPA and the PAHO has presented to the heads of government. So we have no doubt that Dr. Anthony and this vaccination rollout program is saving Guyanese lives. And the fact that Mr. Harmon has decided that he was going to discourage his supporters from taking advantage of this program that most people want to have. People want to come to Guyana to come and get the Surinamese and the Trinidadians. Everybody's waiting to come to Guyana to get the vaccine, and we have and because this is the place that it is happening, and this is where people are seeing the results, and it's clear to see. And so it is inexplicable. I just can't explain, when an intelligent person does something like that, propose, and the assumption is there. There are things that are being done to rebut that assumption, but certainly the Dr. Cummins has demonstrated, and as Minister Rodrigues has said, and I want to reemphasize that point, that issues of security and health is a national issue. It is not something to play partisan politics about. It is a national issue. You want your supporters to be healthy because they're the ones who are going to be voting for you. You want them to be safe because you don't want to buy. So it seems nonsensical, to go there. But I agree with Minister that it's a gimmick. It's gimmicky, as you really give it scrutiny and their action scrutiny. It is all a gimmick. One minister has decided that she goes to the PSA, then signs a no confidence motion that we're not treating with COVID properly. It's a gimmick, and that's all that you can say. There's no way to explain that other than it being.
And before we go to our experienced minister about the mathematical question on the motions, which is one I would want to hear him answer because he's got the adjectives to bring together to deal with that. It must be mentioned that it's only today, I think, there is information coming out of the Ministry of Health that there continues to be the campaign for the first dose of Sputnik. There's the AstraZeneca, of course, both doses are there, and Sinopharm. So there is also the conversation about Johnson & Johnson. So there are initiatives that are being rolled out as it relates to persons getting their jabs. I know that we're still waiting on our second dose of the Sputnik, which is a conversation that Dr. Anthony continues to have and try as much as possible to see that come to fruition. But outside of that, persons are still being encouraged to have themselves vaccinated, which is the best course as it relates to contracting COVID.
Yes, we are seeing a worrying trend of younger persons dying, and the vaccine or getting serious illness as a result of the vaccine, as a result of the contracting COVID. And that Dr. Anthony has explained is because of the variants. The virus mutates every time it gets into a person, so it changes, its characteristics. And so the idea is to have the vaccines that are effective against this virus now and its variants to take advantage of that, because there will be a time, I'm not a scientist, but there will if it continues like it continues to get more and more variants, you're going to find a variant that is resistant against the current vaccine. So the idea is to get ahead of that.
Yeah.
We see where that is going. We see that projection. And so that is why our government has gone to great lengths, far and wide, to procure vaccines for our citizens, because we see that now is the time where everyone should get the vaccine, so we can outrun the variants that are coming, that are giving more and more severe illness. And so this is how we have been proactive. We always have been in securing Sputnik when no one else was, but we based on the science and based on the projections, we knew that Sputnik would have gotten approved. So we just went ahead and jumped ahead of most countries and in the Caribbean, and procured the vaccines that were going to save our citizens' lives. And we are seeing the effects of it. We are seeing our picture could have been the picture of Brazil, where hundreds of thousands of people just dropping like flies.
That's a frightening picture.
Exactly. And that is just on the border. And imagine, we were able to dodge that. We were able to circumvent that just from the proactive nature of our securing the vaccine and the other measures that we took to make sure our citizens are safe. So it's quite sad that where we have is a region 10 where the uptake of the vaccine hesitancy is so high, and we know that it is because of the irresponsible statements of the opposition leader, that now people are even more convinced that they should not be taking it when they need to take it. We see all around how the prominent persons in Region 9, Region 10 ended up dying because of it, and didn't have to. All 99.5% of the deaths are from the people who die of COVID-19 are those that have not been vaccinated. That is a telling picture, and I urge all of us to take advantage of this and forget the partisan politics. Forget this is a matter for your lives and lives of our children as well.
Well said from the legal brain in this grouping here right now. From the young, we go to the experienced. The very young and energetic minister made mention of the mathematical question. So you've got a house, a 65-sitting house, but with Guyana, as we've known in recent times, have had a problem in understanding the mathematical divide. How do we pitch this one?
The thing is, though, before we get to the mathematics, we have to get to the argumentation. And as Oneidge made the point, we're in a quandary right now. What are we going to argue against? Because there is nothing. There is no whereas clause. That is how you build your arguments,
right.
Not the resolution of a motion is the whereas clauses. So we have to strain ourselves when the day comes to argue a case, because as Oneidge, a lawyer, said, there is no case presented as to why you want these men to be removed from their position. All the thing got is, 3 lines. So that is where we are. So before we get to the mathematics, I'm saying you have to find a way to argue the case. And all of us will argue the case. And we will make a pretty case. Because you can't beat the statistics. That's the point here. Minister Walrond spoke to the point of where we were when we took government. Minister Rodrigues spoke to where we were when we took government and where we are today. I saw somebody putting up on Facebook today. There was a projection when APNO was in government by PAHO that during the period 20,000 persons was projected to be infected by COVID. By the 5th of May, between the time of March to May, when they were still holding on to government. We took government, and that projection died because of the nature of the programs that was presented dealing with COVID And you know, whilst we deal with COVID, we still have to deal with all the other health matters. Dengue didn't go away, malaria didn't go away, all the NCDs, they're there. So, and the same workforce you have to manage this healthcare with. We didn't import doctors and nurses from other countries. And so, when you see people suggesting that there is no confidence in the Minister of Health, I mean, it's lunacy, because it's an addition to his burdens, and he has managed that without losing step and time with the other things that are to be managed. And as Minister Rodrigues made a point, when we got into government, the drugs wasn't available, and what was available was not good. We had to dump. We're still counting. One time, 10, we are $14 billion we're discussing here now. Think about it. And the person who was signing the motion, the seconder to the motion, was the minister, at least one part of the time. And then she went on to brighter futures as Foreign Affairs Minister. And you know how that went. And you know, and people should be reminded, Miss Karen Cummins sat before the Organization of American States, prime ministers and foreign affairs ministers, and lied blatantly to them. That is our record, you know? And she comes now to sign a motion. She has no confidence in Frank Anthony. As I've said before, when you discuss in the medical field a Frank Anthony and a Karen Cummins, one is university and one is kindergarten. And don't take my word for granted, my good friend. You know, I spent some time at the Ministry of Health, you know, as the Parliamentary Secretary, so I have some understanding of those matters. And you talk to colleagues in the profession, the medical profession, and they will explain more of that to you. But the point is we're at, you talk about the numbers. What else the numbers can be? And you know what is important? People are making laugh of these people by saying, okay, remember you were saying it's 34. No, you have to get 34 now, you know. You know, so people are seeing it as a comedy. There's no confidence motion, the motions that, remember you said that we need a half man and a half lady, and so. And in all of that, and Guyanese are good, no matter how serious the matter is, they find a way of massaging themselves so that they don't get real angry, and that is what people are doing with this, these motions. We will go there whenever the day comes. I know there will be a lot of theatrics from their end. I would not be surprised that they lick down the desks and benches, and so, you know, we have had that there. And after they finish all of that, they walk out, and then they go and eat, and then they go home. And that's their record, you know. Listen, Mark, no matter what they do at the Parliament, how much they don't want to be there, they go into the lunchroom. That's the record. And that is the type of people we have to deal with. And I have said, I've been around long enough. It is the worst government, and now they are the worst opposition. I have served as opposition several times in the Parliament. This is the worst bunch of people. There's nothing that is sane, nothing that is useful, nothing that is developmental. It is just screaming, and some people, I wonder about them, you know. One lady, without calling her name, she used to be a magistrate once, passing judgment on people. And when I see this person, I wonder how many persons might have gone to Lot 12 without not being guilty. And that is what you have. And it's pathetic, it's sad. And for the young ones, it is more different generation. They would be saner. But in most cases, they are more insane. And you would see them there when the day come. You will see the old crew come out, and the most outlandish things they will say. They will manufacture statistics, I could assure you. They will pull out statistics from all over the place to try to make a case. The fact that they couldn't put it in the motion, as Oneidge made the point, there's no basis before they reach this resolution. I can assure you that by the time the day arrives, they will have statistics. You will be shocked. Some of the numbers that they will, and shamelessly they will. Look, we had the last parliament when Dr. Ante was speaking, where Sherrod Duncan attempted to suggest that people who receive both of their jobs died in this country. A blatant lie in the National Assembly. And right away, Dr. Ante had to deal with him. You know, those kinds of questions, those kinds of things they say and they do. So suppose with all Harmon was doing to negate the vaccination rollout, suppose that caught on to people that even though you get the two vaccine, you can still die. So you understand me? These are not people who are...
The narrative that is...
right, that type of narrative. They're not concerned about the lives of people. They're not concerned about nation building. I suspect the only thing they're concerned about is their salary every month end. Because, as I have said when I started, beginning with the opposition leader, the question you ask, where is the value for money? What has he done? What is he doing? What plans he has for the nation, for even supporters? What has he brought to this government to say, on behalf of my supporters, you should do this for them? None, not one.
Okay.
Everything we are doing, all of us in our own sphere, we are doing for the people of this country, and we don't pay attention to green shirt and red shirt. Elections is over and done. We're the government.
To move on.
And we move on and we do our work in every community, in every region.
Okay.
And we go there and we do it. And that is what we will continue to do. And no Harmon and his foolishness and his so-called no confidence in our colleagues will change our way going out there to help and to ensure people get services. That is our focus. That is our role. And you know, what is sad, tonight we have to be speaking about these people, when today we had a grand occasion where you have 30 Amerindian communities receiving tractors to develop farming in their communities. And for information, it's 120 tractors. This is the first set of tractors. Those are the positive stories. Those are the stories that are important to people. Not Harmon and his no confidence, but we still have to come here and challenge the foolishness.
Ultimately, Mark, sorry, what is happening here is that the oppositions continue to build up their record of losing, because as we all know, this no confidence motion, if you're using the term motion very loosely and generously, it's going to fail. And so what you have is a slew of court cases and court actions that they've brought that they've lost, a slew of similar kinds of motions that they've lost, defense of some of the motions that we brought as government that they've lost, and then these two motions that are significant, ought to be significant in terms of the sector, that they're going to lose. And so what you have, it's clear for the supporters to see that there is a track record of incompetence and losing. And so they're doing themselves no favors. In fact, they're helping us to build our case that they are really not, they're the ones that that you should have no confidence in, because they're losers. And I think showing this to the people, it shows lack of foresight to jump into something like this, something so momentous that will cause people to come on TV and to talk about things, and knowing that you will lose. When it is great. So I think the supporters should really look at this and see that this is just another loss put down to a set of people who have showing very poor foresight, poor strategic direction, and it's really sad.
The irony, Mark, is that the bunch of people, Harmon and company, that are talking about serious crime and so on, they are the bunch of people that committed the most heinous crime last year with the attempted theft of our elections and the efforts that they put to plunge this country into undemocratic rule. They committed the most heinous crime. And now they are talking about having no confidence in two ministers who are competent at their work. If Harmon and company can put half of the effort that they put into masquerading around the place and being on social media and spewing all kinds of foolishness, if they spend half of their time and effort to serving their supporters, to serving Guyanese, to serving their country, this country would be much better off. And that is what they should be doing as opposition, to try to prove their worthiness. But instead, they continue along this path of incompetence and of building up, as Minister said, a track record of failure. And that's all they will ever be, a bunch of failures.
And that's where our last word is on the youngest and more energetic minister that we've got here sitting with us tonight. It was my pleasure having you all.
Pleasure being
Thank
here.
you very much for having us.
I think it's a conversation that was pretty interesting and for a lot to munch on, really. And so it's my pleasure again. Minister within the Ministry of Housing and Water, Lady Susan Rodrigues, Minister of Tourism, Industry and Commerce, Lady Walrond, and we've got Minister of Labour in Joseph Harmon.
Thank you very much for having us again.
This has been Parliamentary Agenda on the no motion.
The no motion.
No motion. Filed by the opposition leader on two sitting ministers, which is Minister of Home Affairs and Robeson Benn, and of course Minister of Health, Dr. Anthony. I'm Mark Watson. Do take care. Thank you and good evening.